Stop making this one mistake with your legs, because it is happening quietly right now. And by the time you notice it in the mirror, you may have already lost 30% of the strength you need to live independently. I'm going to say something that might upset a few nutritionists watching this. Everyone talks about protein powder, gym memberships, and physical therapy for weak legs. But almost nobody talks about the 6 specific foods that actually reverse the process at the cellular level, especially one food on this list that most doctors never even mention to their patients. And I promise you, when we get to it, you're going to wonder why nobody told you sooner. Here's why your legs weaken before almost anything else in your body. Research in geriatric medicine has consistently shown that after the age of 50, adults can lose anywhere from 3 to 8% of their muscle mass every single decade, and that number nearly doubles after age 60. The legs take the hardest hit because they carry your entire body weight, and they're the first place your body starts pulling resources from when nutrition, hormones, or blood flow decline. This condition even has a name in medical literature, sarcopenia, which simply means age-related muscle loss. But here's what almost nobody explains clearly. It's not just about losing muscle. It's about something called anabolic resistance, which means your muscles become less responsive to the protein you eat, almost like a door that used to open with a gentle push now needs you to slam your shoulder into it. So even if you're eating the same amount of protein you did at 40, your body at 70 simply can't use it the same way unless you know exactly which foods overcome that resistance. Before we dive into the list, I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want you to answer in the comments below because I read every single one. How old are you right now, and has anyone in your family, a parent, a spouse, or even you ever had a fall because your legs suddenly gave out, I ask, because I've spoken with hundreds of patients over the years, and that moment, that sudden buckling of the knees on the stairs or in the shower, is almost always the first warning sign that the body sends before things get more serious. So tell me your age and your story, and let's start this list together. We're counting down from 6 to 1, from good to absolutely essential, so stay with me all the way to the top because I promise you, number 1 is the food most seniors have completely written off as bad for them when the science actually says the opposite. Number 6 on our list is beetroot. I know what you're thinking, beets sound more like a garden vegetable than a muscle food, but let me explain why this humble root is quietly one of the most powerful things you can put on your plate. Beets are exceptionally rich in natural compounds called nitrates. When you eat them, your body converts these nitrates into nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is essentially the traffic controller for your blood vessels. Think of your circulatory system like a network of highways delivering fuel trucks, in this case oxygen and nutrients, to every muscle in your legs. As we age, those highways narrow and the traffic controller gets sluggish, which means your leg muscles are literally starving for oxygen even when you're eating perfectly well. Studies looking at older adults and nitrate-rich vegetables have found improvements in walking endurance and reduced the oxygen cost of movement, meaning the legs work more efficiently with less fatigue. For aging bodies specifically, this matters enormously because mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside every muscle cell, become less efficient with age, and better blood flow helps deliver the raw materials those factories need to keep producing energy. To get the benefit, aim for 1 medium roasted beet or 4 ounces of beet juice about 2 to 3 hours before your daily walk or physical activity, since that's roughly how long it takes for the nitrates to convert and start working. And here's your synergy tip. Pair beets with a source of vitamin C, like a squeeze of lemon or a few orange segments, because vitamin C helps stabilize the nitrate conversion process and boosts absorption significantly. I think of Frank, a 78-year-old retired mailman from Dayton, Ohio, who came to me frustrated because he could no longer finish his morning walk around the block without stopping twice to catch his breath. We added beet juice to his routine, nothing else changed, and within about 5 weeks, he was not only finishing the walk without stopping, he'd added an extra loop around the park. He told me his legs simply didn't feel like they were running out of gas halfway through anymore. Number 5 is Greek yogurt, and this one deserves far more credit than it gets. Most people think of yogurt as a breakfast food or a snack, but Greek yogurt is uniquely positioned to fight anabolic resistance because of how slowly and completely it digests. Unlike regular yogurt, Greek yogurt is strained to remove much of the liquid whey, which concentrates the protein significantly, often delivering 15 to 20 grams of protein per serving, roughly double what you'd get from the same amount of standard yogurt. For aging muscles, slow digesting protein is a tremendous advantage because it provides a steady trickle of amino acids into the bloodstream over several hours, rather than one quick spike, giving your muscles more time to actually absorb and use what you're feeding them. Greek yogurt also contains live probiotic cultures. And emerging research on the gut-muscle connection suggests that a healthier gut microbiome may improve how efficiently the body absorbs and utilizes dietary protein, which becomes increasingly important since digestive efficiency itself declines with age. For best results, have a serving of plain Greek yogurt as an evening snack, about 1 hour before bed, since this is when your body enters its longest stretch without nutrients and needs that slow protein release the most. Pair it with a tablespoon of ground flaxseed or a handful of walnuts, because the healthy fats in these foods slow digestion even further and provide anti-inflammatory omega-3s that work alongside the protein to protect aging muscle fibers. I remember Dolores, a 69-year-old grandmother from Tulsa who had been skipping meals in the evening out of habit for years. Once she added a small bowl of Greek yogurt before bed, she noticed within 6 weeks that climbing her porch steps in the morning felt noticeably less like a struggle. She told me it was the smallest change she'd made in years, and yet it gave her the most noticeable difference. Number 4 is the sweet potato, and I want you to pay close attention here because this food solves a problem most people don't even realize they have. Sweet potatoes are loaded with potassium, and potassium plays an absolutely critical role in something called neuromuscular signaling, which is simply the electrical communication between your brain and your leg muscles that tells them when to contract and when to relax. As we age, potassium regulation becomes less efficient, partly due to changes in kidney function and partly due to certain medications many seniors take for blood pressure. When potassium levels dip even slightly low, the result is often muscle cramping, weakness, or that unsettling feeling of your legs simply not responding the way they used to. A single medium sweet potato provides a substantial portion of your daily potassium needs, often more than a banana, while also delivering complex carbohydrates that replenish glycogen, the stored fuel your muscles burn during movement. For aging bodies, glycogen replenishment matters because older muscles store and access glycogen less efficiently, meaning you fatigue faster during everyday activities like grocery shopping or gardening. The best approach is to have a baked or steamed sweet potato, skin included since much of the potassium sits just beneath it, in the afternoon a few hours before physical activity, giving your body time to convert the carbohydrates into usable energy. Pair it with a small amount of healthy fat, like a drizzle of olive oil or a few slices of avocado, since fat helps slow the absorption of the natural sugars and improves the uptake of the fat-soluble nutrients found in the potato's skin. Now, before we get to the top 3, which is where things get really interesting, I need to ask a small favor. If you've made it this far, you clearly care about staying strong and independent, so hit that subscribe button and tap the like button right now, because this channel exists entirely to bring you information your regular doctor's appointment simply doesn't have time to cover. It genuinely helps more seniors find these videos when you do this, and it costs you nothing but a second of your time. All right, let's get into the top 3, because number 2 is the one I promised you at the very beginning, the one almost nobody talks about. Number 3 is the egg, and I want to correct a myth right here that has caused real damage to seniors' health for decades. Many people over 60 were told to avoid eggs because of cholesterol concerns, and this advice has, unfortunately, cost countless people one of the single best tools for preserving leg strength. Eggs contain one of the highest concentrations of a specific amino acid called leucine, and leucine is essentially the ignition key for a biological process called muscle protein synthesis, the process your body uses to build and repair muscle tissue. Research on aging and protein needs has shown that older adults typically require a significantly higher leucine threshold to trigger this ignition process compared to younger adults, which is precisely why the same amount of protein that built muscle at 30 may do almost nothing at 70 unless it's leucine-rich. Eggs also contain choline, a nutrient involved in nerve signaling between your brain and your muscles, which directly supports that neuromuscular communication we talked about earlier with potassium. For aging bodies specifically, this combination of leucine and choline is remarkably efficient since it addresses both the muscle-building side and the nerve-signaling side of leg strength at once. 2 whole eggs at breakfast, ideally with the yolk included since that's where the choline concentrates, is generally enough to reach that leucine threshold and kickstart muscle repair for the day. Pair your eggs with a serving of vegetables cooked in olive oil because the fat improves absorption of the egg's fat-soluble vitamins, and the combination keeps you fuller and steadier throughout the morning. I want to tell you about Harold, an 81-year-old former schoolteacher from Asheville, North Carolina, who had avoided eggs for nearly 30 years because of outdated cholesterol advice he received decades earlier. Once we reviewed his full picture together and reintroduced eggs into his breakfast routine, along with a short daily walk, he told me after about 2 months that getting up from his armchair without using his hands on the armrests felt easier than it had in years. That small, specific victory, pushing up without needing his hands, is exactly the kind of independence marker I look for in my patients. Number 2, the one I promised you, is bone broth. I know this sounds unusual, maybe even old-fashioned, like something your grandmother simmered on the stove, but there is real substance behind why this deserves a spot this high on the list. Bone broth is rich in collagen, and collagen is the structural protein that makes up your tendons, the tough fibrous cords that connect muscle to bone. Here's the piece almost nobody explains. Even if your leg muscles themselves are strong, weakened or brittle tendons can act like a frayed rope, unable to transmit that strength effectively into actual movement, which is why some seniors feel strong, sitting down but unstable the moment they stand and walk. Collagen production naturally declines with age, and some research suggests it can drop by as much as 25% between the ages of 40 and 70. Bone broth provides the specific amino acids, glycine and proline, that serve as raw building blocks for new collagen, essentially handing your body the exact materials it needs to reinforce those tendons and connective tissues around your knees, hips, and ankles. This is precisely why bone broth doesn't get the muscle credit, because it's not primarily working on the muscle itself. It's working on the scaffolding that makes your muscle strength usable and stable during actual walking, standing, and climbing. For best results, drink about 1 cup of warm bone broth in the late morning or early afternoon, and pairing it with a source of vitamin C, whether that's bell peppers, citrus, or even a small glass of orange juice, is essential, because vitamin C is a required cofactor for your body to actually assemble that collagen, meaning without it, much of the glycine and proline simply goes to waste. There was a woman named Margaret, 73 years old, from a small town outside Sacramento, who had been managing persistent knee instability for years, describing it as her knees feeling like they might give way on uneven ground. After incorporating a daily cup of bone broth alongside vitamin C-rich foods for about 10 weeks, she told me that sensation of instability had noticeably decreased, and she felt confident walking on her backyard's uneven stone path again for the first time in years. And now, number 1, the most powerful food on this entire list, wild-caught salmon. I've saved this for last because it works on the 2 deepest root causes of leg weakness simultaneously, inflammation and anabolic resistance, and no other food on this list touches both at once quite this effectively. Salmon is exceptionally rich in omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, and these compounds do something remarkable inside aging muscle tissue. They actively reduce chronic, low-grade inflammation, sometimes referred to in research circles as inflammaging, a persistent, simmering inflammation that increases with age and directly interferes with muscle protein synthesis. Think of inflammation like static on a phone line. Even if the message, meaning the protein and nutrients you eat, is being sent correctly, that static interference means the muscle on the receiving end doesn't hear it clearly. Omega-3 fatty acids essentially clear that static, allowing your muscles to respond properly to the protein you're already eating. Beyond that, salmon is also one of the few natural food sources of vitamin D, and vitamin D receptors exist directly on muscle tissue. Meaning this vitamin isn't just supporting bone health as most people assume, it's directly involved in muscle fiber contraction and strength. Since vitamin D deficiency becomes dramatically more common after age 60, partly because skin becomes less efficient at producing it from sunlight, salmon addresses a gap that's almost universal in older adults. For the best results, aim for a 4-ounce serving of wild-caught salmon 2 to 3 times per week, ideally baked or lightly grilled to preserve the delicate omega-3 fats, since high-heat frying can degrade them. And for your synergy tip, pair salmon with a small serving of leafy greens like spinach, since the vitamin K found there works alongside vitamin D to properly direct calcium into your bones and away from your arteries, supporting the entire musculoskeletal system as a unit rather than in isolated pieces. I think often of Richard, a 76-year-old retired firefighter from Portland, Maine, who had grown so used to his legs feeling heavy and stiff that he genuinely believed it was simply an unavoidable part of getting older. We introduced salmon into his diet twice weekly, alongside gentle daily movement, and within roughly 3 months, he described his legs as feeling, in his own words, years younger, and he had returned to working in his vegetable garden for the first time since retiring, kneeling and standing repeatedly without the stiffness he'd resigned himself to. If there's one thing I want you to carry away from this video, it's this. Losing strength in your legs is not simply an inevitable toll of aging that you must quietly accept. It is, in large part, a conversation your body is having with the nutrients you give it, and that conversation can absolutely be changed, sometimes surprisingly quickly, no matter what age you're starting from. Independence isn't just about being able to walk without assistance, it's about being able to play with your grandchildren on the floor, to travel without fear of a fall, to walk into your own kitchen and make your own breakfast without a second thought. Every single patient I mentioned today started exactly where you might be right now, uncertain, maybe a little discouraged, wondering if it was too late to make a real difference. It wasn't too late for them, and I promise you, it is not too late for you either. If this video gave you even one thing you didn't know before, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next one, because I cover topics just like this every single week, specifically for people who refuse to quietly accept decline as their only option. And before you go, I'd love to know, of these 6 foods, which one surprised you the most? And which one are you going to add to your plate this week? Tell me in the comments below. I read every single one, and I'll see you in the next video.